Coming up on today's show, I want to break down two major news here coming out of Boston. And that's what we're going to do on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. So I'm your host, Allie Barefoot. Number one, looks like they signed another player to an Exhibit 10, and I think this is going to make you guys very happy. But in order to do that, they had to waive one player after the Abu Dhabi game. So we'll talk more so in the back half of the show about who that player was and why they decided to let him go. But let's talk about the recent roster move. They signed Jay Scrubb, legendary Jay Scrubb, to an Exhibit 10 deal, which will allow him to compete in the last 3 preseason games for the Boston Celtics. We'll get into what Jay Scrubb does mean to Boston Celtics fans, but before we do that, if you know, you know. If you are glad that Jay Scrubb has finally got another opportunity to be in the Boston Celtics uniform, then go on ahead and like this video, because if that means yes, then that means you are a true Boston Celtics fan. You have seen what this guy has endured, and it's really one of those wholesome, sports, heartwarming stories that you just hope that it just works out in the end. So let me just bring you back to what Jay Scrubb's timeline has really looked here with the Boston Celtics. Obviously, last year, July of 2023, he earned a 2-way contract from his game in Summer League. I mean, he was putting up double-digit points every single game. He was showcasing he can be an asset on both sides of the basketball. And then in October, he unfortunately suffered a season-ending ACL tear. And this was one of his first major injuries. This is not a guy that consistently has something wrong with him. He's very healthy, but the ACL, it's just really heartbreaking whenever you hear a player endures that. And then, of course, they had to end up waiving him just because it's kind of the business. It's how it goes. If you're injured and you really aren't going to be back in the next year, unless you're like, a top player like Tatum, you're more than likely not going to make the team. But then rumors started swirling around July of this year about possibly re-signing Jay Scrubb, and now it looks like it is officially official. Bobby Manning did tweet this out about a month or two ago when Celtics really started looking at Jay Scrubb, and he really wanted to emphasize that he will sign an Exhibit 10 contract with the Celtics once he fully recovers and receives clearance to play, allowing him to compete for a spot with Boston before likely resuming his basketball career in Maine. So they first had to make sure that he was good to go before they could actually give him that contract, because it would just be a waste if they gave him an E10 and it turns out he still has ACL issues and just couldn't compete. But Bobby Manning did tweet out earlier yesterday morning saying the Celtics are now officially signing Jay Scrubb to an Exhibit 10 contract. Scrubb is making a comeback from tearing his ACL last October when he made the Celtics on a 2-way deal after a very strong summer league. But all the 2-way deals are officially full. Anton Watson, Drew Peterson, and J.D. Davison have taken the 3 2-way spots this year between Maine and Boston. But the only thing Boston was waiting for is that clearance check to say Jay Scrubb is ready to go at full speed. And Jay Scrubb himself gave us the clearance that he is good to go on his Instagram story, just saying, fully cleared. And that is so great to hear, because ACL injuries, I personally have never sustained from them, but I have heard of my friends that have had ACL injuries, and it's not only a physical recovery, but it's a mental recovery. You basically just got all of your abilities taken away, and now you have to get back to the type of athlete you were before you tore your ACL. So it's great to see that Jay Scrubb is feeling good, and he's good to go, and possibly can now compete. Hopefully can pick back up to what we saw in Summer League last year and compete for that final roster spot with the Boston Celtics. But I'm going to be honest, look. I don't think it's likely that he's going to play for the 15-man roster this season, but I do think that it would be a great opportunity for him to spend time in the best G League franchise in the NBA with the Maine Celtics. I think that is the perfect fit for Jay Scrubb, and knowing that our 2-way deals are obviously full right now with Anton Watson, JD, and Drew, it's unfortunate that this timing didn't really match up with Jay Scrubb, because you want him to play for Boston. Obviously, he has just been a loyal player to this franchise since he tore that ACL, but I think if you ramp him up, get him going once more in Maine for an entire year, who's to say that maybe he can't just continue to be loyal to Boston and be signed to the 15-man roster next year? So I do think Maine is ultimately the right choice for Jay Scrubb this season. But I have a question, because, you never know how these things really do play out, and Jay Scrubb can come out here and absolutely wow Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla. But do you think Jay Scrubb is going to make the roster. Type Y for yes, type N for no. I cannot believe that almost a year after he tore his ACL, we are back talking about Scrubb, back on the Boston Celtics. It's just so heartwarming. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And while you guys are doing that, let me tell you real quick about our sponsor here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. It's the #1 daily fantasy sports app, PrizePicks. I play PrizePicks almost every single game day, whether it's the postseason, regular season, or maybe even the preseason. PrizePicks has something for everybody. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Not to mention, it's just the best place to join over 10 million users and try out your skills. And it's super easy to play. All you have to do is pick more or less on a player's projected stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Want to play PrizePicks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, or MMA champ Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promo tabs of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Or if you want to do what Allie Barefoot's doing, well, these are my picks for tonight's games. Obviously, Pete Alonso and Aaron Judge are on my radar for tonight. So I always take the more. That's just kind of how I play PrizePicks. I don't know if it's a good strategy, but hey, I've won over $1,000 in more than 25 entries playing this. So something's working. But all you do is pick more or less. Go on ahead and put in your picks for tonight's games or any games in the future, and you can go ahead and get started by doing something very simple. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead you to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, Each Tuesday, and Flex Friday. So if you guys want to get started, download the PrizePicks app, use code CLNS. That's going to get you guys $50 instantly when you play $5. PrizePicks, run your game. Throughout the rest of the preseason, there are only 3 games left since the Boston Celtics did end up playing 2 games in Abu Dhabi against the Denver Nuggets. So we could see Jay Scrubb in the Philadelphia 76ers game, maybe either of the Toronto Raptors games, because those 2 games are at home while the 3rd game will be away right before they start their regular season on October 22nd against the New York Knicks. I'm not sure how much playing time somebody like Jay Scrubb will get, even though we know Lonnie Walker, he averaged less than 10 minutes a game in both games in Abu Dhabi. So I'm not sure if these 3 games are going to ramp up the starters or if we're really going to see maybe what they can do in Maine. But he will have opportunities to showcase his skills before the regular season does start. But in order to sign Jay Scrubb, the Celtics had to make way for another player, so they did have to cut somebody because you can only have 21 players in your training camp at one time. But they did end up waiving Tristan Enaruna. He obviously did not play for Abu Dhabi the first 2 games in this preseason against the Denver Nuggets, and he had a strong showing in Summer League. That's how he did end up getting an Exhibit 10, but they did end that contract pretty early in the training camp, and it was nothing against Tristan Enaruna. I just think that if you want to bring back Jay Scrubb, somebody that you've been keeping tabs on for well over a year, you're just going to have to make way. But I saw this tweet, and I really actually agreed with it. I remember I saw it months ago when Summer League was just ending, and I really liked what Tristan did in Summer League for the Celtics. And he said, if the Celtics are smart, this is a just wait it out a bit type of player. Enaruna in their lower ranks, they currently do not have 2-way contract spacing open, but should the next contract become available and the talent is showing the promise, it's his. I did like the way that he was very aggressive on defense in Summer League. I thought he paired very well with the rookie Baylor Shireman. He was kind of mixed in with that second rotation when it came to the Summer League, but he also knew how to drain the rock, which is what Joe Mazzulla always looks for in his 2-way players is they good on defense, and can they score? Can they get us points when they're on the floor? You're going to be in good graces in Joe Mazzulla's eyes. But once again, he was not in Abu Dhabi, and I don't know if he just wasn't asked or if they just didn't need him or you can only bring a certain amount of players. But obviously, if you're not bringing him across the world to play the Denver Nuggets in the first 2 preseason games, you probably don't see a very large future with Tristan Enaruna this season alone. But just like that tweet said, if he showcases his skills in Maine and wants to maybe come back next year, then albeit. That's kind of what the G League is for. And I'm going to be honest, just because I do think the Boston Celtics have such a great roster, and you brought back 13 out of the 15. I think really any player right now, including Jay Scrubb, because I haven't seen him play in over a year, is really just trying to showcase that they're good enough to keep around in their main G League team. Obviously, we have been blessed with a fantastic roster in the Boston Celtics, so you kind of saw this coming, and I do think there were maybe even 2 other players they probably could have cut if they needed to make one move for Jay Scrubb. So ultimately, that's a blessing the Celtics and the Celtics fans do have this upcoming year. But you always hate to see when a guy's career does end just a little bit early with the Celtics, but maybe he can continue in Maine. Making room for Jay Scrubb, I think, is the ultimate goal here for Brad Stevens, possibly just getting him back in the mix. We know that they were both very high on this player coming out of Summer League, and signing him to a 2-way contract as well was huge. If he didn't get injured, who knows where he would be right now, but we've seen J.D. Davison really improve his skills on the 2-way contract since he's been playing with Maine and Boston, so maybe if he plays in Maine this year and earns a 2-way contract next season, who's to say we can't see Jay Scrubb on the 15-man roster moving forward? My last question for you guys here before we head on out is if you are ready for Boston Celtics basketball, because my producer Cohen and I were just talking about it, and we are legit like a week and a half away from taking on the New York Knicks in the home opener. All you guys have to do to show your support is like this video.